Oh man, we're live. How about that? Who saw that coming? Right? Did anybody? I don't know. It's our Friday, because I don't do Fridays. So this is, you get it. This is Friday, sort of, for me. That's the deal. And it's actually Thursday. I don't want people to think I don't know what day it is. I do. It's Thursday. What's up, G. Gibson? I did cut my hair. Thank you for noticing. Well, I didn't cut my hair. A professional did. But, yes, Stephanie, it just started. Welcome. You are early. The show hasn't even begun yet. Good morning, Karen. Hope everyone's having their morning coffee. Hello, Matthew. Hello, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you, Farhead. I appreciate the compliment on the haircut. What's up, Edwin? It is coffee time indeed. Hello, David. Hello, the double B. It is evening where you are. Where are you? Well, Stephanie, you are early today. How was your set on Tuesday? Sorry I missed it. It was fun, you know. Yeah, it was fun. And you know what? I got another one coming up. Next Politics Night at the Dojo is on September 26th. So you should totally come hang out if you're in the LA area. Alonzo Bowden's going to be headlining. It's going to be pretty exciting. It's 5:55 in the UK. I dig that. Double B, you're in Slovenia. Which, by the way, if anyone here from the UK is watching, I just confirmed a spot. I'm going to be doing a spot in London on October 17th. And I'm going to be doing a spot in Dublin, I think, on either October 22nd or 23rd. So, yeah. I'll have more details as the time gets closer, but, you know, if you want to see me do some stand-up and you're over there, let me know. I'll make sure you get all the right info for that. Guys, we are over 30. We're actually over 40 as far as people goes. You know what that means? That means the show has officially begun. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone. I am your host. We're doing it. So, today, we're talking about some stuff. We got a lot of stuff. You guys have already been sending stuff in. Keep sending it. You tweet me an article at Ron Placone, or you drop it in our Reddit subsection. For those of you that don't know the drill here, this is the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What that means, you guys tweet me what you want to talk about, and that's what we talk about. None of this shit is prepared in advance. None of it. None of it at all. Although we start out with the topic, and that's kind of mildly prepared in advance. Like, I think about what we want to talk about. And here is what I wanted to bring up today. Now, this is by request. So, a little while ago, and I forget who did it. I hope they're on the stream now. But somebody asked that we talk about academia. And in particular, why I chose not to go on in academia and instead entered the Wild West world of show business. So I thought that today would be a good day to do that, because earlier, first of all, usually on Thursday on our last stream of the week, we do, you know, our topic's a little lighter. Sometimes it's just sort of a fun one, or it's kind of like a more broad one that's typical for a Thursday. And also because earlier this week, we did a story on teachers' salaries throughout the country and how criminally low they are, and how teachers are having to work 2 and 3 jobs, and it's absolutely ridiculous. We talked about that earlier today too, or earlier this week, excuse me. Not earlier today. Show just started today. But anyway, you get the idea. So let's talk about that for today's topic. So first of all, for me, for anyone not in the know, I did my master's degree, and this would have been in 2010. I did a 2-year master's degree, and I did not go on for my PhD. I chose not to. And there's a number of reasons for that. So I'll start with the most obvious reason. So when I was in grad school, what my life was like, I was in a really cool program, and my overall graduate school experience was positive. I learned a lot. I did a lot of interesting research. I learned a lot of ideas that I still use to this day. But that was also when I was doing stand-up. I had started stand-up a little while earlier, and I had been doing it for a few years, stand-up that is. So I was starting to get booked on gigs on the road, and I was starting to make a little money at it. And so it's one of those things. The most obvious answer is, what sounds more fun to you? I mean, doing stand-up is one of my favorite things in the world. So what sounds like a more ideal Friday night? Being on stage, doing one of your favorite things in the world, or sitting in a classroom listening to some faculty member pontificate about a paper they wrote that nobody will ever read. To me, the former sounded like more fun. So when it came time for graduation, I kind of decided, you know what? I'm going to take a chance on a dream. I'm going to try to be a full-time stand-up. And it actually really helped me, because the cool thing about being in graduate school, you know when the finish line is. If you're just working a job, you got to just sort of decide that you're going to quit. But I knew that I was going to graduate in May. So I said, okay, come May, I need to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I don't want to go on in school. I made the decision I don't want to go on for my PhD. So when I made that decision, I thought, man, maybe I should try to be a comedian. And it was the start of my last semester, so I had plenty of time to try to figure shit out. So I worked really hard trying to book May. I was like, okay, I graduate on May 5th. I think that was the date, actually. I think it was May 5th. It might have been like the 6th or 7th. It's not important. But I was like, I'm going to try to book my entire May. I'm going to try to get as many gigs as I can so that I can make a living as a stand-up comedian for at least 1 month. At least 1 month. And that was 6 years and counting ago. Or, yeah, over 6 years ago now. So that was a big part of it. I just decided that I really wanted to take a shot. I decided that, it's better to do it when you're younger versus older. I kind of thought, gee, nobody in the academic world is going to care what I look like on TV. But people in show business do. So, now's the time to do this. If I'm older and I decide I want to go back, presumably the Academy will still be standing. I guess you never know, but presumably it'll still be standing. So that was a big part of my decision. And then the other thing, and this is something that we've talked about some on the show, there is a little bit of, there have been moments in my academic career where I kind of thought this place is just a corporation with textbooks. And the whole notion of the radical academic, I think, is pretty much dying out. I don't think it was ever a big thing, but I feel like it used to be more of a thing in the 60s, and then has been on the decline ever since, at least based on a lot of the writings that are out there. I can think of a handful of radical academics that are still out there. I think a lot of people, they just kind of say what they need to say to get tenure. They say what they need to say to please their faculty head. And I did see a lot of that in my graduate school program. And Occupy Wall Street was a big thing for me. And the reason it was a big thing for me is because I felt like I was on the wrong side of the fence. I was in graduate school during Occupy Wall Street, and, was the movement perfect? Certainly not. No movement is. All movements have their imperfections. That is a truth in the world. But their message, by and large, I thought was a good one, was a powerful one. And so when I was in school, I first of all, I didn't really participate much because I was in school and I was doing other things. And we would talk about it in class, and so many people were just so dismissive of it. And one person, they tried to be subversive by saying it was corporate. Like, they were like, yeah, it's actually corporate. It's all fake and blah, blah, blah. And then they talked about how these people were acting out of line. And I remember at one point in one of my classes, I was just like, the cops pepper sprayed an 80-year-old woman. An 80-year-old woman. They pepper sprayed her. They pepper sprayed an 80-year-old woman. These people were acting out of line. There was footage, and I went to graduate school in Pittsburgh. There was footage in Pittsburgh of these cops just shoving people for no reason. This girl was just walking, totally, and they just shoved her. A girl. And everyone looked at me like I was an alien. Like, they just looked at me like, wow, what are you getting upset about? Police brutality? We just pretend that's not a thing. And I really felt like I was on the wrong side of the tracks. I really felt like, man, I don't want, like, I'm like, someday from now, if my grandkids are like, hey, what did you do during Occupy? And I would have to say, I was sitting in a classroom criticizing it. And that's a big problem that I do have with academia. It's sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes, and in my experience, too often, you have people sitting in an ivory tower trying to understand a subculture or another culture. And in many ways, it is condescending. In some ways, one can make the argument it's racist at times. And it can be very off-putting. And it can make you kind of look around and be like, what the fuck am I actually doing? What am I actually doing here? So that's why I chose stand-up in the short term. And that's, again, I'm talking about my experience. And again, my experience overall was still a positive one. I'm glad I went to grad school. I enjoyed it a lot. But I decided it's not for me, at least not right now. Maybe 20 years from now, I'll get tired of whatever it is you call this. And I'll decide I want to go back. And I can if I want to. So, those are my thoughts, and let me see what you guys are saying. Maybe I know some of you guys have experience with academia as well. So let me see what you guys are saying. Oh, some of you guys are asking me where I went. I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What happened to my hair? I cut it. I was ready for something new. I cut it. Some of you guys are saying you agree with me. How did you get together with Jimmy, Steph, and Arno? Well, that has nothing to do with what I was talking about. No, I'm just kidding. I knew Jimmy from TYT Network. We both, even when I was a road comic, I was on the Young Turks Network. They would promote my videos and stuff. So whenever I would visit LA, I would go into the studio and do whatever shows they would let me do. And in 2013, I did The Point, which is a show that I believe that show's no longer in existence. But I did The Point, and Jimmy Dore was also on the panel. So, and I knew who Jimmy was. I mean, I watched Jimmy. In fact, we still talk about this story because he'll ask me about it every now and again. But I watched Jimmy's special in my college dormitory when I was a freshman, because his first special came out in 2004. It was very critical of the Bush administration. I really hated Bush. So I watched Jimmy's special, and I remember liking it. And I have yet to track down which one of my college buddies I watched that frickin' special with. Because I know I watched that special with one of my college buddies. And I've asked, I'm like, who did I watch that special with? And no one's been able to. They're like, nah, I don't think it was me. But, I mean, this is going back a little while. So, yeah. But anyway. So that's how I knew Jimmy. And then when I moved on to when I moved on to when I moved over here to LA, I kept in touch with Jimmy, and he gave me an opportunity to do panel, and I showed up, and I kept showing up, and then eventually he wanted me to start writing for him, so I did, and then it morphed into what it is now. So that's and then there's a few other channels and players involved here, but that's the long and short of it. And I guess to tie it back into today's topic, had I gone on for my PhD, none of it would have happened. Anthony, thank you so much. Just wanted to throw $5 at you for being awesome. Placone, viva the progressive movement. Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate that very, 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 very much. And Portland wants to know, how did you do that $5 thing? Well, you hit that dollar bill thing at the bottom of the chat, and you can do what is called a super chat. So yeah, and thank you guys for your compliments here. You guys have been very kind today. Thank you for the kind words about the Jimmy Dore show and my role on it. I appreciate that very much. Doug has something to say. When I was going for my doctorate, I had a boss who told me, "Will it get you a raise?" No, it's just for your self-gratification. Technically, he was right, but one day when I retire. Yeah, I think that, and I will say this, I think that a lot of people that think that the academy, and when I say the academy, I know that's just a broad way of saying like academia as a whole. I think when people think it's just there for job training, that's kind of the wrong attitude. But I think that our economic situation forces people to take that attitude. I think the point of higher education is to expand your mind, to learn new skills, and to get a different grasp on the world that's going to help you in whatever your career may be. However, because, at least here in the United States, we have a situation where people typically go into crippling amounts of debt to pursue higher education, it's hard to take that attitude. That's the way it ought to be, but that's not the way it is. And it's not the people's fault that that's the case. It's not the person's fault, like, oh, you have the wrong attitude. Like, no, you have the attitude you have to have because of this shitty situation, because of predatory loans, because education's not affordable, and it's becoming something for the elite, which is dangerous. That's dangerous. And we live in a very weird time because higher education is slowly becoming something reserved only for the elite, which is dangerous. However, we have knowledge in our pockets now. We have a super highway of knowledge just in our pockets on our phones. So knowledge is arguably more accessible than ever before. Education, not so much. It's a weird, very weird contemporary landscape we are living in right now. And the solution for it is free college. So, those are my thoughts. Bloody hell, Ron. London gets all the good stuff. What about the People's Republic of Manchester? I'm going to be in Manchester, and I've been looking for a gig there, and I have not been able to find one, Pam. If you can help me out, October 18th, I'm going to be in Manchester. I would love to do a spot there. I've not been able to find one. I've talked to a couple producers there, and they were like, can you do a different night? And I was like, no, I can't because I'm kind of on vacation. I'm just looking to do a couple spots to meet some people and network and have fun. And if anyone wants to come out and see me, they can. So I would love to do something in Manchester, Pam. If you have any insight into that, let me know. October 18th is the date I'm looking for. I would love to just do a spot somewhere. I'm not looking to get paid or anything like that because I don't want to fill out any visa forms or I'm just looking to do a spot for fun because I'm mostly on vacation. Let's see, what else are you guys saying before we move on here? What was my... What were my thoughts on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying to support all Democrats? It hurt. It hurt. It hurt to hear her say that. And to my knowledge, she has been kind of changing her tune on that, which I think is a good thing. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. It was hard to listen to. And, you know, I'm glad she's... apparently she's been changing her tune about that, and I very much hope so. And some of you guys are saying you don't like my haircut, which, you know, that hurts my feeling a little bit, but, you know, I'm not sleeping with any of you, so it's no biggie. And DeJours is pointing out that Ocasio-Cortez clarified her statement. That's good. Yeah, I've heard some. I haven't seen anything directly. I know she has addressed it, so that's good. Look, Ron, we are governed by a psychopathic elite. What are we going to do about it? That's a long answer, and that's going to take some time. Peter needs Schultze. Thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Peter LeBeau needs to have you on Crosstalk again. Last show was a mess, and no one was there to express our progressive patriotic beliefs. You know, I love that show. I love doing Crosstalk, and actually, I had to decline an offer recently because I wasn't, I didn't feel like it was kind of the right topic for me. But yeah, I love going on that show, and I hope to be back on it very soon. Thomas says, check every month to make sure you're registered to vote. That's the truth, actually. She rewalked back her forward statement to co-endorse and ensure that people will still buy her story. I guess you're referring to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But yeah, I hope to be back on. I hope to be back on Crosstalk soon. But it's just the most recent offer I had, which I don't really want to go into detail about. I did say no thank you because I didn't feel like I was a good fit for that particular panel because it was a topic I just was not super fluent in, and I didn't feel like I would have been a good contributor there. So, you know, occasionally you got to make those judgment calls, and but I really do like that show, so I hope to be back soon. And you're working with the Beto campaign. Zanga, some friendly advice. Tell him to change his website a little bit to make it abundantly clear that he is for single payer. You know, you don't have to take that. You can take it, or, you know, just my thoughts. I think you should change his website to make it abundantly clear he is for single payer, if he is in fact for single payer. Let's see. All right, let's move on. So this is the first thing that I brought up today, because this is from the Reddit. Hold on, let me go. Does the progressive left have a unified foreign policy? And then we're going to go into another article that kind of talks about more about this. So here's the question posed in this Daily Dot article. As the progressive left, wow, I stumbled over that. As the progressive left in America has grown in strength over the last several years, there have been a number of pieces critiquing progressives on foreign policy. The argument is that while the left has a robust agenda on the domestic front, they are painfully lacking when it comes to international affairs. They have broad ideals, they argue, like being anti-war and anti-austerity, but few specifics. If you look closely at the position of America's left-wing leaders and organizations that support them, you will find that there is actually a coherent and thoughtful foreign policy on the left. The problem comes from the tendency to educate foreign policy with war that leads many in the political establishment to find the left lacking. So the truth is that this according to the article, the truth is there is a thoughtful and radical approach to international affairs merging. The left is just waiting for a figure who can articulate the vision. Bernie Sanders, Lee Carter, and they name some Ro Khanna, Ocasio-Cortez, Pramila Jayapal. These are people. Now, here's the thing. Here's my response to this. So what you're finding here, all the people mentioned in here, for the most part, are people infiltrating the Democratic Party that don't share the passive acceptance of war that the party's establishment accepts. And not only accepts, but embraces. So let's go over to our next article here. Because guess what just happened, you guys? As deadline nears, Senate approves a $674 billion defense budget. With the fiscal year winding down, Senate lawmakers on Tuesday advanced a multi-agency appropriations deal that would prevent a government shutdown, give the Defense Department its full-year budget on schedule for the first time in a decade. It provides more than $606 billion in base defense spending and nearly $68 billion more in overseas contingency funds. This is what we spend on our military. This was approved by a 93-7 vote. And I believe over on Twitter, I'm trying to see who the no votes were. But I believe, like, one of the no votes... Let's see if it says. Yeah, I'm not seeing where the no votes were. But it was 93-7. So, to tie this together... I mean, and this is not really talked about. We just approved one of the biggest military budgets since the peak of the Iraq War. No one's talking about it. You don't see that on CNN, on MSNBC, on Fox News. You don't even see a lot of independent media talk about it. Because we just passively accept these huge defense budgets. And that's the reason we can't have the things that other countries with less wealth than us take for granted. They always find the money for this. But they can't find the money for healthcare or education or anything that improves our lives. So when you have two pro-war parties, this is why, getting back to the first article, there's no quote-unquote cohesive foreign policy message on the left. Because there's nobody that's a non-interventionist, that's a peacenik, that actually wants to end our wars and invest that money at home. There's only a handful of people with that message. Some of them aren't even on the left. Some of them are on the libertarian right, i.e. Rand Paul or somebody like that. So there's not really a lot of power, at least on the electoral politics level. There's not really a lot of people that have enough sway. There's only so many people, is what I'm saying. There's only a small handful of people. They're scattered. So there is not one driving policy that's non-interventionist, that wants to de-escalate our involvement in 7 wars. So I don't think it's necessarily the fault of the anti-war progressives. I think it's the fault of the fact that there's just not a lot of them yet, because we passively accept, because no one talks about it. No one talks about the military budgets. I think that if there was, and this is part of the reason I think we need a third party. I think we need a brand new party, because if there was a party that really had clout and really had a movement behind them and big names behind them and could shine a light on, hey, this is what we do. This is what our military budget really is. And the general person started to become aware of this. That, you know, we don't have health care because we're fighting all these wars. We're not taking care of the troops when they're there or when they get home. All this money goes to defense contractors. And we shouldn't be in any of these wars. We have an economy based on war. And it sucks. The war economy sucks. That's a theme on this show. The war economy sucks. So that's why there's not a driving force behind ending the wars, because we just pass these budgets behind closed doors, and Democrats just go right along with it. So on the establishment level, we have two pro-war parties. We have a few people in office. On the fringes, on the left, you have DSA members and stuff like that infiltrating the Democratic Party. They mentioned Lee Carter over in Virginia, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Those are people infiltrating the Democratic Party. Then, of course, over on the right, you have the libertarian Rand Paul-esque person. And even though those ideas, when you really present it to people, are overwhelmingly popular, people want to end the wars. Part of the reason Trump won is because he branded himself a non-interventionist. He hasn't delivered on that. It was a lie, just like everything else he promised. But he branded himself a non-interventionist. A true anti-war message would be overwhelmingly popular. The article also pointed out Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ran as a non-interventionist when she won her primary. She said, we're tired of the establishment war as usual. And she won. That was one of the reasons she won. There were many, but arguably that helped her win. So yeah, you need some people, you need some true anti-war candidates to continue to win at every level, at the local level and the state level, and then bigger from the top. It would be huge to have a 2020 nominee that was an actual peace nominee. But in my lifetime, we see what happens to actual peace nominees. They get eliminated as quickly as possible. In 2008, there were two candidates that were actually anti-war candidates. One was Ron Paul. The other was Dennis Kucinich. Who was eliminated from the debates as quickly as possible? Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich. Which debates were they excluded from first? The ones orchestrated by MSNBC. Who owned MSNBC at the time? General Electric. Where do they make a lot of their money? Bombs. So we have a pro-war media. We have a pro-war government. We have a pro-war CIA that pretty much tells the government what to do. Our intelligence agencies. They've never met a war they didn't like. So, yeah, it's not that the left doesn't have an anti-war message. They do. It's just a very marginalized message. And the people with the power, the oil companies, they're pro-war because it helps them exploit resources. The health insurance companies, they're fine with it. So, and even in certain circles on the left, being genuinely anti-war makes you a radical, or you're called a purist, when you really just see the connection. For some reason, being called a purist is sort of connected with seeing the connections between what's really going on in this country. Seeing the connection between having a war economy and not having universal health care. Having a war economy and not having living wages. Because all those things are connected. So, and the fix for that is not something that happens overnight. The fix for that is something that is going to take years. But there's no time to start like the present. And I think that having a new party would help that. A lot of people, they say, look, taking over, starting a new party would not happen overnight. Yeah, I know it wouldn't happen overnight. I'm not saying it would. I'm saying it would take a lot of time. Just like the people that, taking over the Democrats isn't going to happen overnight. Yeah, I know it's not. But there's so many things in place to prevent that from happening at all. But whatever path we end up on, it's certainly not going to be overnight. No one's saying it is. Just because I feel that we'd be better off starting a third party than trying to take over the Democrats, that doesn't mean I think a third party, we'd wave a magic wand and be winning overnight. I don't think that. And, when people are more for them entering than starting a third party. I don't think that they're bad or anything like that. I just, the question that has yet to be answered, well, how is this better than, how is this better than starting a brand new party? And of course, there's the infrastructure argument. Well, the infrastructure is already there, and I get that. But the infrastructure is also set up to prevent what you're talking about. It's set up to prevent a progressive takeover via the DCCC, via the DNC, via superdelegates. So, if you just started something new, you got ballot access, you really formed a good ground game, I feel like both are going to be very hard paths, and people are like, well, Dementer has shown more progress. It's like, well, yeah, that's because we don't have the party yet. We tried to get Bernie to sign on. He said no. So, we're kind of at the drawing board now. And so, I think we're all on the same team. It's just a matter of, what's going to stick. But anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent there. Let's move on. So, and Joe, you can make all that one clip. I feel like that was all kind of in the same theme, those two articles. So just make them one clip. And, man, what an uplifting message for the end of the week. Yeah, we're still in a war economy. I don't know if we're ever going to... It's going to be tough to fix. All right, this is from RC. I'm giving it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet now. And RC says, this isn't American news. Well, then I'm not interested. USA. No, I'm just kidding. This isn't American news, but it shows France elected their Obama. Which people say that about Macron, that he is France's Obama. And here's an article supporting that via RC. So let's go to the article. Don't forget to get your Galaxy 9. All right. A viral video makes Macron look clueless about France's unemployed youth. As a former investment banker and France's self-dubbed Jupiterian president, Emmanuel Macron isn't necessarily someone who comes across as in touch with the plight of the common man. In fact, his political opposition has tried to paint him as the president of the rich. Now his recent exchange with an out-of-work man is making waves on social media, with analysts saying that it makes Macron look disconnected from the daily reality of unemployed French youth. All right, so let's read about it. So he told the president, a guy named Jonathan Jahan, 25-year-old, unemployed, he's a horticulturalist. He told the president he's been looking for jobs for months, and he registered with the government's employment agency, sent out his resume to multiple companies, no luck. So here's Macron's answer. If you are ready and motivated in the hotel industry and cafes and restaurant and construction, there is a place where I go where I don't get told. There is not a place I go where I don't get told we are looking for people. He then told Jahan, if I cross the street right now, I will find you a job. So they're saying that this is... They're saying that was kind of an out-of-touch answer. This guy has certain qualifications. He wants to do a job in his field. And he's saying he should be able to find one. And Macron's just saying, like, there's something out there. So... yeah, I mean, of course he's out of touch. I mean, that just goes... he's very much a neoliberal from everything I've ever heard about him. And, yeah, of course something like that is out of touch. That's what right-wingers say. They're like, well, if you want to work, there's work there. In many cases, that's not even true. I can't really speak to France because last time I was in France was a long time ago. I'm not totally, fluent in their political situation and their economic situation. I know they have the best healthcare in the world. I know that. But, yeah, that's a typical kind of right way. Well, if you want to work, you put the blame on the worker. Instead of saying, hey, this is my field. I've been looking for something in my field for a long time. I've registered. There's nothing. What's going on? Things aren't looking good. Well, I bet there's got to be some cafe that needs a busboy or something like that. Go do that. It's your fault. You're lazy. And what's he basing this off of? His experience when he walks around. Because I'm sure he just walks around like a regular guy all the time. So, yeah, I think that was a pretty out-of-touch BS answer and kind of shaming shaming the guy looking for a job instead of, giving an honest answer about maybe particular to the guy's industry. Not that there's anything wrong with working anywhere else, but the guy made it clear that this was his industry. If somebody went and they said, I'm an unemployed, I'm an unemployed electrician, and you start shaming them for not taking other jobs, it's kind of like, well, that's not the point. The point is I bring a certain skill set, and there should be an opportunity for me. I work hard doing what I do. I'm a horticulturalist. I'm an electrician. I'm a carpenter. I'm a construction worker. I'm a chef. I'm a whatever it may be. When you offer value to an economy, you should be able to share that expertise and offer that expertise. And instead of Macron saying something like that, like, gee, I'm not an expert in your field, but totally, there's no reason why we should have a shortage of your area of expertise. And, I will look into that more. I will see what we can do on our end. But clearly, there's something wrong when somebody with your particular skill set isn't able to find a way to use that skill set to benefit our economy. And, I really hope that your search ends soon and you find the right gig for you. Instead of saying something like that, which still kind of would have been an empty diplomatic answer. And I'm not sure, that's what I would have said, because, if I'm on the spot, I'm not going to, but instead he just shamed the worker, basically. And just said, well, there's got to be something. I see help wanted signs somewhere. Like, okay, buddy, good for you. All right, so good job, Macron. You seem like a man of the people in the eyes of nobody. All right, we got something from Marcus. Let's go ahead and give this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Boom. And this article's taking a minute to load. All right, this is from Maryland Matters. I guess what doesn't matter to Maryland Matters is how slow their website loads. In fact, this is taking way too freaking long. All right, moving on. Sorry about that, Marcus. This is from Daniel. So check this out, y'all. Dozens of ice volcanoes discovered on nearby dwarf planet. New observations suggest that a lonely world in the asteroid belt has been erupting frozen lava for the past billion years. On the dwarf planet Ceres, the largest body in the asteroid belt, icy volcanic activity may be a regular occurrence rather than a puzzling anomaly. New observations reported today in Nature Astronomy suggest that the small world has been continually erupting over the past billion years, although its volcanism has spewed substantially less material than the volcano on Earth, Mars, or Venus. So because I am no science expert, right now my only response to this is, wow, that sounds really freaking cool. Like, this sounds amazing. First of all, I'll be honest, this is my first time hearing of this dwarf planet. And that sounds badass as hell. Regular icy volcanic activity. Though the evidence for widespread volcanism is strong, scientists are still perplexed by what is fueling those eruptions. So we don't really know what's fueling these. A new space mission to this dwarf planet would probably tell us that. Dude, how do I get in on that? I've had the ice cream before. Did any of you guys have astronaut ice cream when you were kids? I did. I remember thinking it was kind of cool. Stretching roughly 600 miles across, Ceres is the only dwarf planet in the asteroid belt, the ribbon of space rocks scattered between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Since March 2015, NASA's Dawn spacecraft has orbited the frozen round world, taking a close look at its icy terrains and startling bright spots. But several months after pulling into orbit, Don spotted something truly odd, a tall pyramid feature reaching more than 13,000 feet above the cratered surface. Sometimes you miss a zero when I don't have my, when I'm looking kind of far from the screen, as my face is a little far. Dude. All right, so let's read a little bit more about ice volcanoes. Scientists named the feature Ahuna Mons, and in 2016 announced that it was indeed a volcano. But instead of erupting fire and brimstone, which is what volcanoes usually erupt along with the religious rite, it likely oozes frozen lava made up of ices, salts, and other minerals. Sounds like a fuck of a margarita, doesn't it? That's because temperatures inside Sirius are too cold to melt rock. So even though it's like too cold, it still spits out ice. How badass is that? So that means, I guess, like the inner forces, it's still able to spit out ice. And now they're saying, all right. But the temperature was, however, high enough to melt the ice. So that's why it's kind of like a debris type thing. It's water, ice, salts, as it's saying. This is starting to sound Game of Thronesy, right? They're going to find the White Walkers on this place. That's what they're going to do. They're going to send a space mission there, and they're going to be like, holy shit. They're real. They even have an ice dragon. Icy volcanic eruptions might sound weird, but Ahuna Mons is far from being the only so-called cryovolcano in the solar system. So it's been spotted on other planets. I almost said countries. Wow. It's been spotted on the other moons and arguably several other worlds in the outer solar system. Scientists think those eruptions are powered by the body's internal heat, which in the case of some moons is generated by gravitational interactions with home planets. And on some of these worlds, the geysers and plumes that result from cryovolcanism provide some of the best places to look for life beyond Earth because they bring materials from buried potential life-friendly reservoirs to the surface. Dude, how cool is that? All right, I feel like we should just end here because I don't really have anything super insightful to say because I'm just a regular guy when it comes to science that in depth. So really, I'm just like, that's really fucking cool. Like that's the same response whenever I go to an exploratory center. I went to the NASA exhibit in Los Angeles, and the whole time I was just like, that's really fucking cool. And it didn't take much to blow my mind, actually. Like on a spaceship, you know how the flag? I don't know if you ever noticed, but on a space shuttle that's going into space, there is the flag is kind of the opposite way, and it's always painted that way. I never knew why. We asked somebody, it's painted that way because it's supposed to look like it's flapping in the wind. So when the space machine is going up, when the shuttle is going up, the thing, it looks like it's flapping, like it would flap this way, so it looks like, and I thought that was really fucking neat. I was like, wow, I never knew that. I hugged the person that told me. I didn't do that. That would have been weird. But my point is that it doesn't take a lot to, whenever I see a new species I've never like seen before in person, I get like real excited. The first time I saw a Wolverine, I geeked the fuck out. Like I geeked out the first time I saw a Wolverine. Because I'm a dork and I like the X-Men. Not that I'm not saying that if you like the X-Men, I'm saying I'm a dork who also likes the X-Men. So I grew up with the X-Men, and of course Wolverine was my favorite character because he's grumpy, and I can be grumpy sometimes too. And he's short. I am also short. And he is very, very old. I have been 27 since the year 1933. So me and Wolverine have a lot of shit in common. So I really got into him. So the first time I saw Wolverine in person, I was freaking, and you're like, wow, Ron, were you young? Were you a kid? No, I was in my mid-20s. I was an adult, and I was just geeking. I was like, can I touch it? And they're like, no, you idiot, you can't. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, totally geeked out. The first time I saw Wolverine, and we're pretty much out of time. I'll go to the chat here in a minute, and that's how we'll end the show. But The first time I saw Wolverine, I was one of the things that I did on the side as a side gig when I lived in Seattle. I timed marathons. I was like, if you run a marathon, usually you get a chip that it allows you to keep your time. I was the dude that kind of orchestrated all that. Like, I set out the mats, I tested the chips, I like packed them ahead of time, and then I would give them to the people at the event, and then I would record everything as they came in, like made sure the data was loading, stuff like that. It was a pretty fun gig because half the time you just sort of sat there, and it was in the Northwest, so it was freaking beautiful. So you would just kind of sit there and watch the sunrise and have a cup of coffee. So it was pretty fun. Most of it. I mean, the early rising wasn't fun. I would have to get up at like 4 in the morning for it, but it was only like once or twice a month. Anyway, one time we did this marathon at this nature reserve, and they decided that they were going to take us around the nature reserve after it was closed. And they specialized in kind of more exotic animals you don't always see all the time. So I got to see a Wolverine, and I'd never seen a Wolverine in person before, and I was kind of geeking out. They really do, like, Wolverine's claws, their freaking claws kind of look like that. Like, they do look like adamantium, a little bit. And, yeah, I thought it was really freaking cool. I saw a bunch of, what else did I think I saw a Tasmanian devil there, too. Which, again, because I grew up on certain cartoons, I geeked out about that. Bats. I freaking love bats. I saw a fruit bat eating a banana, and it blew my frick. Everyone else was grossed out, and I was just like, yeah! Like, I was like, yes! In fact, when I'm in Austin, Texas, on November 10th, get your tickets now, by the way, I'm hoping to go to that bridge where all the bats fly out. I did that. I haven't done that. The past few times I've been in town, I haven't done that. If you guys are in Austin, Texas, you know what I'm talking about. There's this thing every day around 5 or 6. These bats fly out from under this bridge, and it's really freaking cool. I like bats. I think bats are really neat. So anyway, whenever you send me one of these science articles, I'm just gonna, kind of be like, that's really neat, you guys. Our planet might not be here much longer, but it's neat in the meantime, right? Like, that'll be me. So let's go to the chat to end the show today. Then I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. And sorry we didn't get to everybody. And Marcus, sorry about your article. But I think it probably would have loaded, a couple years from now if we would have waited. But sorry about that. All right. Portland, thank you for your Super Chat contribution very, very much. Chris Walker, please check out Audrey for Congress. Audrey Denny is the progressive running in California District 1 who is anti-war and anti-corporate. Hopefully she can come on the show. Pasta, if you're watching, look into Audrey. Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Can't find intelligent life in the Democratic Party. Also, Balthazar, I know that there's been a delay because I did not have all the sizes people needed, but keep a lookout. Keep a lookout in your mail. Hint, hint. Monquissimo. If so much of what you call evil is done by the people who claim they are just following orders or just doing their job, how do we implement substantial change? We got to start somewhere. That's obviously a question that has a very in-depth and long answer. And we don't have time to really get into that now, but I think that we need to start from the ground floor so that someday the people at the top wouldn't be giving those kind of orders. Balthazar, thank you for the compliment on my haircut, and yes, I will check out Streamlabs. I know I need to do that. A little bit of housekeeping before we dismount for the week. RonPlacone.com for all my tour dates. November 2nd, Sacramento, California. Get tickets now. We only got so many more available. Get tickets now for Sacramento, please. November 2nd, Sacramento. November 3rd, San Francisco, California. Graham Elwood's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to be doing stand-up. And who is opening those two shows? Twitter sensation Peter Douche. I'm so stoked to see that guy live. I can't freaking wait. November 10th, I'm going to be in Austin, Texas, doing a special event with ZT, our sponsor, ZHITEA.com. We're going to do an event for East out there. That's the big art walk on the east side of town in Austin. That's going to be November 10th, 8 p.m., grab tickets now. You can get them over at ronplacone.com. November 23rd, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And January 11th, Orlando, Florida. We're announcing more Florida dates soon, but we will be in Orlando on January 11th. Tickets for that are available now, ronplacone.com. And if you want to support this show on the sustainability level, please consider becoming a patron. For a pay-what-you-can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You can come to my shows for free when I'm playing your town. Some restrictions do apply there, but usually when I'm coming to your town, you get to go for free if you're a patron, and you get all those perks for a pay-what-you-can level. I know the Patreon, I list the suggested as $5, but no matter what you give, whether it's $5, whether it's less, or whether it's more, you get all the same stuff. No matter what level you give at, you get all the same stuff. All of my posts are for all patrons. All of my benefits are for all patrons. So don't be fooled by the settings that Patreon has. All my stuff, all patrons, one level. Thank you guys very much for being part of this. The podcast comes out tomorrow. We don't do a stream tomorrow, but the podcast does come out. So if you missed anything this week, podcast is a good way to get a summary of what we did this week. And I will see you guys on Monday for Music Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. The war economy sucks, but have a great weekend regardless. You guys are awesome. Have a good one. Peace.